Cum te asiguri că o contraofensivă va eșua? Pasul 1. Anunți pe unde se va desfășura contraofensiva. Pasul 2. Aștept 6 luni de zile, astfel încât inamicul să își construiască fortificații. Pasul 3. Ataci pe unde ai spus că vei ataca. În cele ce urmează vom urmări împreună cel mai recent videoclip al lui Alex de la History Legends, care va face parastasul contraofensivei ucrainene. Let's go!
My friends, we're now 4 months since it all started. I think we can confidently say that Ukraine's summer offensive was a complete failure.
It's failure! Da, stați așa. Cine suntem noi să spunem că a eșuat contraofensiva ucraineană dacă aceasta își dorește să se identifice ca fiind o contraofensivă de succes? Una victorioasă.
It's painful to say, but what a military disaster. And such video is just the latest proof of it. Despite non-stop waves of infantry assaults, not very far away from Banzai attacks, what we call the counteroffensive achieved none of its objective.
A ridicat ghilimelele când a spus cuvântul contraofensivă, deoarece aceasta este o ofensivă și atât, una anunțată cu mult timp înainte.
And it will be remembered as one of the greatest military setbacks in modern history. Heavy losses for...
În fundal erau cimitirele victoriei.
Or meager territorial gains, which the Russians could very well be in the process of recapturing.
Păi, stați puțin așa, stați așa. Poate că obiectivul contraofensivei era cucerirea unui sătuc de vreo 400 de locuitori din zona gri. Și atunci putem spune că contraofensiva a fost de succes. Bine, noi știm că obiectivul contraofensivei era să se ajungă la Marea Azov și să se despartă armata rusă în două. Asta e, n-a fost să fie. Nu mai face Zelensky plajă în Crimea. Poate la vară, cine știe.
I think it's time to say Prashai Pabieda. Oh no, apologies. Ukrainian commanders did achieve one thing. They managed to turn the beautiful fields of Zaporozhye into a bloodbath. Thousands of conscripts that the West has spent months to train to NATO standards are now buried, without even talking about the hundreds of pieces of military equipment just rusting there. Whoever signed off the plan of the counteroffensive is a criminal.
Give the man a name.
Anyway, the battle for the Sea of Azov is now over. Soon the greenery will disappear and will expose Ukrainian positions. Within a couple days, the rainy season will start, and all of Ukraine's wheeled vehicles will get stuck in the mud, like this Max Pro you can see on screen. I don't understand NAFO intellectuals.
Summer in Crimea! Stați că mă dau la o parte ca să vedeți și voi mema. N-a fost să fie, ghinion, vorba unui clasic în viață.
Promised us a beach party in Crimea by August. I don't understand, is it because they're incompetent trolls? Welcome to History Legends. Here are the latest news of the Russo-Ukrainian war. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. As you know, some of my Ukrainian...
Și pe voi vă rog să dați like, să vă abonați dacă nu sunteți abonați și vreau de pe acum să vă mulțumesc celor care mă susțineți pe Patreon și ca membri ai canalului Noaptea Minții. O să pun linkurile în primul comentariu.
Videos have been targeted with limited or no ads. So make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal to keep them.
Eu o să țin clipul demonetizat. Decât să mi-l demonetizeze ei, mai bine o fac eu cu mâna mea și în felul ăsta îl public mai repede, fără să mai aștept zile și uneori săptămâni după YouTube.
The show running. Thank you to everyone that has already helped, and welcome to the headquarters. Anyway, I think it's time for the final assessment of this Kontrinastup. Here is a before or after. Here's a situation on June 4th, on the eve of the general offensive. And then 4 months later, on the 4th of October. As you can see, Ukraine is still very far from the Sea of Azov.
Și să ne aducem aminte de un aspect. Întâi, contraofensiva s-a numit contraofensiva de primăvară și a fost amânată până când a devenit contraofensiva de vară. Și acum a devenit contraofensiva fâsâită de toamnă.
Which was necessary to cut off the land bridge linking Russia to Crimea. Apart from a handful of hamlets, Ukraine was not able to secure any strategic objectives like Melitopol, Berdiansk, or Mariupol. Even smaller tactical victory points like Tokmak, Polohi, or even Staromlinivka are all still firmly under Russian control. If we zoom in on the west end, Ukraine pushed 5 kilometers, gained 4 villages and 60 square kilometers. In the center, in that infamous Robotine-Verbove sector.
Acolo sunt în Lighean, că sunt înconjurați de înălțimi, de unde rușii cam cuvântul este toac. Da? Okay.
Ukraine captured 76 square kilometers of land, but only 1 village, Robotine. And in the east, this is where Ukraine had the most success.
Dar pentru cei care nu ați prins secvența la Antena 3, când sătucul Robotine a fost ocupat, unii ar spune eliberat, o prezentatoare de la Antena 3 a spus că orașul Robotine a fost eliberat de forțele planetare. Ura!
This was the least fortified part of the Russian defenses, and the Ukrainians gained 244 square kilometers and 8 settlements. And from a tactical perspective, they also managed to remove the Vremivsky salient and level up the front, which could be useful in a follow-up offensive. In total, throughout the summer, Ukraine secured 13 villages and 380 square kilometers. Wait for it, out of 44,467, or less than 1% of what they were supposed to secure. Oh, but were saved by the bell. According to Ben Walsh's interview with The Telegraph, Ukraine is winning. They just finished the job.
You serious?
As a matter of fact, in 2023, Russia gained more ground than Ukraine. No, the sensitive topic. How many Ukrainian losses for such meager results?
Ia să vedem. Singura contraofensivă de pe planetă din istorie care a beneficiat de un teaser. Promo. Așa ceva. Vai de aceea ce a fost Alex la faza asta. Bine construită.
CBS News wrote, Ukraine never releases figures of their losses in the war against Russia, but in the 3 months since their counteroffensive kicked off, there appears to have been a sharp increase in casualties. We don't have a precise number. The only one we have is from the Russian MOD, which claimed 70,000 irrecoverable Ukrainian losses during the summer. Irrecoverable meaning KIA or severely wounded. To be honest, I'm not
Alții spune că ar fi mai aproape de 100.000.
sure that many Ukrainians actually took part in the offensive. However, they might be onto something. The Times interviewed a Ukrainian soldier call sign Boyets, a 23-year-old storm group member from the elite Skala Assault Battalion. I brought up this unit multiple times throughout this counteroffensive. Boyets said, sure, we've breached the first line of the Russians, but effing hell, what a cost. This is a first-hand account from a Ukrainian soldier. The Times continues. Boyet's unit has already been reduced by casualties to 25% of its original strength since joining counteroffensive operations around the Axis Tour.
Cu alte cuvinte, demilitarizarea Ucrainei continuă conform planurilor lui Vladimir Putin.
Robotine in July, and the life expectancy of storm units is the shortest on the front. In that case, they suffered 75%.
10 minute în câmp deschis. Da, conform unui general ucrainean.
Casualties in 3 months, perhaps even more if they had replacements to fill in the gaps in the meantime. Hold on a second, that means that Boyet's unit, most likely a platoon, has only 10 men standing out of the 40 of the original strength? Or did they mean the entire Scala assault battalion? If the assault battalion was 500 men strong, only 125 would still be combat ready. We can imagine that all the assault formations that Ukraine gathered for this offensive got shredded. Once again, we don't have a full report of casualties, but on September 1st, the Kyiv Independent reported that the new 23rd Brigade, made up entirely of Mobics, took severe casualties. Once again, it's hard to interpret what all this means. Let's continue. According to the latest reports, the 47th Mechanized Brigade was removed from the front due to its high losses. A couple weeks ago, it was reported that half the brigade was removed from the front, and now that would mean that the entire brigade is now being deployed back to the rear to refit. Apparently, on the 5th of September, one of their company commanders fell on the field of honor. Meanwhile, in this Facebook post from this Ukrainian man, he claims that the 47th Brigade lost 13 KIA and 60...
Vedeți de unde și-au organizațiile independente cifrele pierderilor ucrainene? Din astfel de postări. Da? Uneori făcute chiar de ucraineni, că rușii nu prea pot să facă pentru că nu au acces la Facebook.
53 wounded in just one attack. 76 losses out of a company. I imagine if that unit was at full strength, we're talking about a 42% decrease in strength in just one assault. Also notice this interesting ratio of 5 wounded for every 1 KIA. And how do you even get 63 wounded men out? Here you can see some soldiers of the 47th Brigade evacuating one of their comrades who got seriously wounded during an assault north of Verbove. Maybe it was one of them. I really hope he made it out alive. And that explains what I read in the same article from the Times, where they write, medics attached to the 47th Mechanized Brigade say that the unit's casualties have run into 4 figures. What? How many losses are we actually talking about? 1,000? 2,000? 3,000?
No,
By NATO standards, this brigade has been annihilated. What a disaster. The article continues. So severe has been the fighting that in some instances, teams of medics with the 47th had their own numerical strength reduced to 50% because of casualties suffered on missions to collect wounded. As a reminder, the 47th Mechanized is the unit.
Cea mai iconică imagine a acestei contraofensive.
That lost at least 55 M2A2 Bradleys and a minimum of 16 Leopard 2s. I say at least because Oryx essentially stopped recording Ukrainian losses, or only does it on a part-time basis. For example, Oryx did not add the destroyed Bradley from the 9th of September, the one from the 15th of September, this other one from the 17th, or these two from the 23rd of September, and the latest one from the 5th of October. Well, it turns out NATO equipment is not that much better than Soviet one. It burns just about the same. The elite,
cum a spus și Putin, și ale ard.
Maroon tactical group that was sent forward to salvage the operation also took a severe beating. The 14th Chervona Kalina Brigade is said to have suffered 50% losses, and the 82nd Air Assault Brigade, which was described as ridiculously powerful, is said to have lost its offensive potential. What's strange is that the 82nd Air Assault Brigade officially only lost a fraction of its vehicles. 2 or 3 Marder infantry fighting vehicles out of 40, 1 Challenger 2 out of 14, and 4 Striker APCs out of 90 units. I see 2 explanations. Number 1, more vehicles have been destroyed than what we can see from confirmed video evidence. Or Oryx simply did not count it as destroyed or damaged, like the Striker from October 2nd. Number
Concluzia este că cele mai sigure blindate din lume sunt cele care nu se luptă cu rușii.
2, the 82nd Air Assault Brigade simply lost too many of its 2,000 personnel to carry on combat missions. In fact, according to certain Russian sources, the 82nd Air Assault Brigade and the 46th Air Mobile Brigade together lost 867 soldiers in August alone. Let's say those include both KIA and wounded, and that they suffered the same rate of casualties throughout September. In that case, the 82nd Brigade would be down to 60% of its original strength in only 2 months. And that
Nu te bați cu matematica. Osule, ce mai zici tu, răducule?
That's huge because we know that casualties are not equally spread among the rank and file. Stormtrooper units like the one from Boyet we just saw bear the brunt of casualties. And if these units are all gone, well, the entire brigade cannot continue going on the offensive. Let's not forget how the 46th Air Mobile Brigade already took a beating in Bakhmut. The Washington Post reported Kupol, a lieutenant colonel, said his battalion is unrecognizable. Of about 500 soldiers, roughly 100 were KIA and another 400 wounded, leading to a complete turnover. Kupol said he was the sole military professional in the battalion, and he described the struggle of leading a unit composed entirely of inexperienced.
Stop! Știe careva de ce mai continuă șarada asta? De ce nu se duc la masa negocierilor? Ce e asta? Ce mai vor să facă? Cum îți revii dintr-un asemenea dezastru? Asta e politicul. Politicul decide și ăștia alții se duc în tocătorul de carne.
Troops. Once again, the 46th Air Mobile Brigade
Și ce e trist e faptul că nu politicul ucrainean decide. Da?
will have to be filled up with inexperienced conscripts. In my opinion, the only reason why the 47th Mechanized, the 46th Air Mobile, and the 82nd Air Assault Brigades can continue to operate is because they're fueled with infantrymen from other units, like the 116th, 117th, and 118th Mechanized Brigades kept at the rear.
Da, cu alte cuvinte, au alimentat cu oameni zona în care se pare că pot arăta avansuri pe hartă. Cât de puține sunt ele.
Meanwhile, the telegram chat of the 35th Marine Brigade fighting in the Vremyevsky salient has been strangely silent lately. One might wonder how many of the admins are still alive. How about now we take a look at some of the numbers of the losses of troop transports. In July, the Washington Post already admitted that Ukraine had lost 20% of its weapons and armor just 1 month after starting the offensive. Since then, Oryx confirmed 23 Oshkosh M-ATVs destroyed or damaged, as well as 48 Max Pro MRAPs. These 48 destroyed Max Pros during the counteroffensive represent 76% of all Max Pros destroyed in Ukraine so far.
E vorba despre Max Pros, da? Și nu despre iPhone, ok? Da, nu Bros, cum spune traducerea automată.
To show the intensity of the fighting. Same thing for the British-made Mastiff MRAPs, with 22 visually confirmed losses. That's also 76%.
Da. Întrerup, încă o dată, este important că numărătoarea se bazează doar pe dovezi video, dar ar putea exista și alte echipamente distruse care nu au fost filmate. Ca atare, nu au fost numărate. Deci, ne uităm la minimul de pierderi pe care le-ar fi avut ucrainenii. Cine știe cât sunt ele de fapt de ample.
Of them having been destroyed or damaged during the summer campaign. As for the M113 APC, 27 units, or 47% of all losses occurred during the summer. As we have seen, these are probably higher in reality. Those examples are only snippets of the big picture, but it can provide you with a general idea of the number of losses of Ukrainian assault formations. Another tangible clue is that Ukraine is already in the process of replacing the forces of the depleted 9th and 10th Army Corps that participated in the summer offensive. And on top of that, Ukraine is forming another 10 new brigades filled up entirely with conscripts.
Conscripți! Ăia ce sunt oamenii atâți pe străzi cu forța și îndesați în dube, da? Pentru a fi transformați în șoferi de Leopard 2. Bine, glumesc, da, ați înțeles ideea.
10 brigades would represent roughly 20,000 to 40,000 mobilized personnel, plus all the one required to fill in the gaps of the units that got shredded in the summer. This also explains the increasing number of videos appearing on social media showing how Ukrainian men are forcibly conscripted to the front. Of course, the mainstream media in the West will keep inviting.
Bă, cum o fi să lucrezi ca recrutator? Vă dați seama? Cum ajung aia acasă, se așează în bucătărie la o ciorbă, pun băscălia aia pe masă și întreabă nevastă: cum a fost ziua ta la muncă astăzi? Păi am tărât decât 17. A fost o zi ușoară.
Fighting so-called experts that will attempt some mental gymnastics to explain how Russians are actually taking more casualties.
Radu Hosu, hai cu gimnastica mentală, hai.
Oh yeah, because Ukrainian artillery...
Radu Tudor, bă, eu cred că Radu Tudor s-a lăsat, cred că și el s-a lăsat de mințit în halul ăsta. Ultima redută a minciunii a rămas în USR-ul brașovean, da?
It is better because cluster munitions and storm shadows, blah, blah, blah. This guy claimed that the Russians are suffering up to 500 KIA per day. What is he talking about? The Russians are defending from heavily fortified positions that they prepared for months. And they also...
Încă o dată, nu pentru o lună, ci de luni de zile, da? A tradus greșit ăsta, așa. Și să nu uităm, conform estimărilor observatorilor independenți și imparțiali, numărul victimelor printre militarii ruși se află la un low istoric, da? Deci au avut un spike la începutul operațiunii militare speciale și încă un spike când au asaltat Bahmut. Acum, pe timp de contraofensivă ucraineană, rușii mor tot mai puțini, da?
Benefit from an overwhelming firepower advantage. Realistically, how is it possible that they lose more men? Here's something I posted on Twitter the other day. According to the BBC-funded Mediazona, the confirmed number of military fatalities in the ranks of Russian armed forces from the 4th of June to the 19th of September amounts to 4,274. I repeat, 4,200.
Se vede, da? 4.274 între 4 iunie, da? Data declanșării contraofensivei, și 19 septembrie 2023. Se aude? În timp ce ei au avut ori 70.000, cum a spus Alex adineauri, mă rog, acum 5-10 minute, sau 71.500, cum a spus chiar Putin, sau 100.000, cum au spus alte surse, care probabil lucrează cu numere mai rotunde.
74. That's an average of 40 Russian soldiers KIA every 24 hours. All over Ukraine, not even Zaporozhye specifically. Even if that number doesn't paint the full picture, we're very far from the 500 KIAs per day. We all know why they do this. This is a massive coup, a silly and ridiculous attempt to camouflage Ukraine's military disaster, to camouflage the defeat they just suffered during the summer. While it was gone, the mainstream media pulled yet another PR
Ia
stunt
să vedem.
as experts brought up the so-called Verbove breakthrough on the 23rd of September.
Bă, ce e asta? Ce e asta? Ce e asta?
CNN reported Ukrainian forces have broken through in Verbove on the 24th.
Nici vorbă.
Deutsche Welle, Ukraine making good progress in the south. Here the Telegraph on the 25th.
Au făcut progrese bune, dar în numărul de morți și răniți. Acolo au făcut progrese, să ne înțelegem, da? Nu progrese teritoriale. Auzi, breakthrough. Bă, îți dă senzația că au spart liniile de apărare rusești și acum se răspândesc așa prin teritoriile ocupate, desigur, de ruși, în urma unei acțiuni neprovocate și ilegale, desigur.
Of
Da,
September.
și se duc prin Crimea deja, cred că.
Ukraine makes tactical breakthrough after breaching Russian defenses.
Bridge.
What? Please tell me, where is that breakthrough the entire mainstream is talking about? That was the front on the 18th of September, just before I left. And here it is on the 1st of October. Where is the breakthrough? Oh yeah, if you squint your eyes really hard, you can see that they captured a couple of tree lines. Is this breakthrough in the room with us right now?
Este prietenul tău imaginar în cameră cu noi acum? Întreabă psihiatru pe pacientul care este media occidentală. A? Este breakthrough.
This is what actually happened near Verbove.
Yeah.
In this video posted on the 26th of September, you can see an entire column of Ukrainian vehicles destroyed or abandoned on the way to the village. One could say the real breakthrough is in our hearts. No.
Mamă, cum a fost asta, iar de glume lui Alex, da? Deci îl parafrazează pe Zelensky, care, după căderea Bakhmutului, a fost întrebat de jurnalist sau ceva. Mai stăpâniți, mai sunteți în Bakhmut? Și el a răspuns ceva de genul ăsta, că Bakhmut rămâne al nostru în continuare în inimile noastre.
The real breakthrough is the number of shells Russia managed to fire along the way. We can count up to 40 pieces of equipment left behind on this road of death. That's the amount of vehicles of an entire Ukrainian assault battalion. If you're wondering about the rate of casualties, about a third of a Ukrainian brigade lies there, and this within 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah.
Am înțeles că din zona aia apar pe site-uri gen, pe platforme de socializare, gen Telegram, filmări cu foarte mulți morți, da? Ucraineni.
That's why Verbove is still Russian. Some Ukrainian units did reach the outskirts of the village. They could not push any further because any incoming reinforcements got hammered by Russian firepower on their way there. In this video, 4 Ukrainian infantrymen are transported away from the front in a pickup when a drone comes crashing in.
Aoleu, bă,
You can even see how
săraci. Așa ceva? Uitați-vă la săracul ăsta. Bietul de-l pare obosit și fracasat de atâta lupte.
tired they are by the lack of responsiveness to this action. In this one, a BMP brings reinforcements to the front when he gets targeted by an anti-tank missile. Meanwhile, Russian aviation is very active on the Zaporozhye front. In this frame, they dropped an FAB-500, not the 250, the bigger model, the 500 kilogram bomb, on an advancing Ukrainian unit near Verbove. And then Ukraine has to get all the wounded, evacuate them. As you can imagine, it puts a lot of strain on their already stretched out resources. Here the Russians even got naughty and launched not one, but an FAB foursome. Let's just say the load was huge on this one. Seriously, how many losses do you think Ukraine suffered as a result of all these strikes? Ukraine needs a response. For weeks now, Russian drones have been targeting any unit rotating in or out from the battlefield. In this one, the drone operator waits for these two Ukrainian infantrymen to run into this dugout towards the rest of their squad before striking. It's also interesting to note that the Russians carry
Bă, aoleu, ce m-au desumflat clipurile astea, bă, băiatule, bă. Și ce vedem? În fiecare lună, rușii își dublează activitatea dronistică, să-i spunem așa.
549 drone attacks in the month of September, up from 96 in June, thus confirming what I expected in my previous video. So yeah, in the end, there is no breakthrough. Verbove is the Russian, Novoprokopivka is the Kopani is the Russian, and Novopokrovka is the Russian. In this sector, Ukraine only managed to capture Robotine, but as you can see on this topographic.
Cum v-am spus la începutul clipului, rușii sunt pe înălțimi, da? Iar bieții ucraineni sunt în lighean.
Map. The Russian army
Deci este an uphill battle for Ukrainians.
has effectively trapped the Ukrainian army in a cauldron because the Russians barricaded the access to the main road leading to Tokmak and Melitopol. Ukrainian formations were only able to progress through this lowland, but were stopped by this ridgeline. Now to hold off
Și acum încearcă să forțeze spre Kopani. Tot fără succes.
onto their gains, Ukraine overcrowded the area, which led to major management problems. Ukrainian units are more likely to interfere with each other than to advance in a coordinated manner.
Kopani
So
era
now
după mine.
Ukrainians are desperately
Îl
trying
vedeți.
to expand the breachhead by launching
exact.
even more attacks towards Kopani.
Da? Vedeți ce v-am spus. Evident că știe și Alex. Bun, hai totuși să mă poziționez aici.
And north of Verbove. Nothing new since we already spoke about it in my last video. That's all I have for you today. Let me know.
Mulțumesc pentru vizionare și bravo, Alex! Bravo!